Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Getting back to work on the Cobra in this video. When we left off last video, I was knocking out some of the multiple systems that I need to figure out. Got some fuel lines run, AM lines created and whatnot. Got the fan belt figured out finally, so there's now a belt on the front of the engine. Got the coil wired and mounted, and then started messing around with the fuel pump relay. So that is where I'm going to pick up here, finishing up getting that thing wired in place and getting it mounted and finalized. So that will be done. And then I can move on to probably the cooling lines because I need to get those hoses figured out. So time to dig in. All right, so I did go ahead. I'd mentioned in the last video I had this orange and blue wire I was going to use to go to the fuel pump. And I was thinking I was going to have to drill a hole over here. But when I looked at it, actually where the pump is mounted, there was enough of the length of this line. So I already have it connected under the car to the lead coming off the fuel pump. And I spliced it into the matching lead on the relay. So we've got the constant hot, which is the pink with black, is matched up across from the orange with blue, which is going to be powering the fuel pump. So next we'll be doing the power and ground wires to trigger the relay. And those are going to be triggers coming off of the ECU. The other end of the connector is currently under the car. I need to wire up, and then that's the plug that'll plug into it. So I need to get to work on that. I'm just going to run a solid wire as the positive from that to be the positive trigger on that harness. And then as far as the ground goes, as I mentioned previously, I'm going to use these two leads here from the impact sensor switch down there, the cutoff relay, to go ahead and put in the ground portion of it. So I'll run one to the ground wire on the relay harness there, and I'll run the other to the ground side of the ECU harness. All right, update time. As you can see, I have everything wired and bundled up, so the relay is completely hooked up. I ran a blue wire that I tied into what's going to be the power coming off of the ECU to trigger the relay. I had some spare length of blue, and then one end of the neutral switch, or the collision switch, is going to this, which will be the relay. The other end of it's going to go hook up to the negative underneath the car. So I've already I've taped it up to that joint. I need to pull it through and just tape up the last of it once I disconnect the main power cable from the on-off switch there, just to kind of route things better. But everything else is taped up to that point, and it's taped underneath. So I just need to get a clip in and then hook everything up to the connector. I'll get the connector put onto the two wires and then get it plugged in, and we should be done with this job. All right, so underneath the car, you can see everything is coming through right there. I did tape up to near the end here, and the reason being is this is about where it's going to split off. I'm going to put a clamp up there to hold things up away from the suspension, and then you got the wire right here that goes to the fuel pump. So, and then the two wires right here, the blue and then the red with black, they're going to hook up to that connector there, which is from the ECU. I'll run them down in this clamp and then plug it in behind the fuel lines there. So just need to get this connector and those terminals installed onto those two wires, and then I can get everything plugged in. All right, and there we go. Connector is created. I finished taping the rest of these two wires. So I just need to get a clamp put in place up there, and it'll hold everything up and out of the way, and then I can get this connected to its other side, and that will be done. All right, and here we are. Everything is connected. Put a little clamp up there just to hold the wire along there, and then it runs down, goes behind that clamp, and it is plugged in there, and then everything goes forward through that channel and a bunch of other stuff, cables and fuel lines and hoses and whatnot. So just need to pull that up through ever so slightly and just finish wrapping the area where it goes through the floorboard right there. But other than that, we are all set as far as fuel pump wiring goes. All right, and here we are all done in the back. I did, remove that one extra wire, disconnected the stuff, got everything finished wrapped. So the wrap's all done. All I'll have to do is mount the relay, which I'll probably run it behind the seatbelt there and just have it up on that 1x1 square tube, just hanging there kind of in the corner out of the way. But I'm gonna leave it accessible because I may jump it just to run the fuel pump briefly to purge the lines once I get the fitting that I'm waiting on so I can finish my fuel lines. So, but for now, that is it with the fuel system. All right, it's been a few days since the last clip, and now that the wiring for the fuel pump is done, I can go ahead and finish plumbing the lines because I received the part I'd ordered in the mail. Now this one is a Summit branded, whereas all the other fittings I'd use that are back there are Russell brand. Unfortunately, the Russell brand is on back order, whereas the Summit 180 degree fitting was available, so I went with that. Pretty much the same as the Russells, or the Russell part, 180 degree. It is a swivel, so it will spin. I will say that this joint is much tighter on the Summit versus the Russell ones. They spun around a lot more freely, but this one does still turn. So what I'm gonna do is get the line cut to length, get this fitting installed on the line. Then I can go ahead and, in theory, prime the fuel pump. Just try and get some gas to flow through it to blow out anything that might be in the line before I do the final tightening of this on the fuel rail. One bonus is I was able to remove the hose from the car. I got it cut to length, and I'm going to start threading it in. As you can see, I do have it clamped in my vise to hold it in place, using some aluminum bar stock just to try and keep from marring it too much, because the finish on the actual, or the texture on the actual vise. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this tightened down and then get it cleaned out, and we can get it installed in the car. All right, and here is the final hose. I did go ahead, spray some brake cleaner down this the 90 degree end, just to try and blow out anything that might be loose in there. Nothing really came out, but at least that's done. So I'm gonna go ahead, get the 90 installed on the regulator, get that tightened, and then I can go ahead and try and prime the fuel, or get the fuel pump going, and see if I can get some fuel to go through this thing. All right, well, here we go. You can see it is hooked up to the rail now. Everything's tightened. I was able to, trigger the fuel pump on, blew some gas through it. And as you can see, there is pressure in the system. Obviously, nothing's adjusted. I just, once I hooked it up and tightened it, I wanted to at least, put some power to it again, just to see if there were going to be any leaks anywhere. So I will double check everything, let it sit for a little while, make sure that nothing appears as far as leaks go. But yeah, that looks like fuel system is plumbed and good to go at this point in time. All right, so now that the fuel system is done, next on the list is to check the surge tank, make sure it still fits, and then I can go ahead and get it cleaned up and get it painted for installation. All right, surge tank is installed. I've got it tightened down, and it's hard to see, but there is just barely enough space there. It does clear the distributor. Coming around the other side, and same thing, just enough room for the fuel. U-bend there, nothing hitting it or anything like that. So good to go there. I'm gonna go ahead, remove it, start cleaning it up, and get it painted. All right, and here we go. There is the tank. I originally had it down so I could get the underside done. Made sure I got a good amount of paint on that. Did like 3 coats on the underside, and then I was able to get it up in the air on these jack stands and get everything else so it was completely coated. It's three coats on the underside, about 4 coats on the upper. So it is drying. I'm gonna let it cure for a couple more hours. I use VHT high temp ceramic, good for 550 degrees, so all set there. Also went ahead, cleaned up, this is the Motorrad thermostat that I put in this car last year. It's only got like 200 miles on it, so went ahead and cleaned the silicone off of it with a wire brush. So this is good to go and go back in the car once everything is dry and ready to install. So I'm gonna let this cure, and then I can go ahead and get this installed on the car. All right, next day, and here's the tank. Looks great. I wanted like a satin black, not too glossy, but not completely flat. So I'm very happy with how the finish turned out. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing installed. I'm gonna use a gasket, and then I'll use some sealant on both sides of the gasket as well. And then, as I showed, I already have the thermostat all cleaned up and ready to go in as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on getting this thing mounted to the intake manifold. All right, so we have a problem. Stupid me, I went ahead and I put the sealer on here, went to install the thermostat, and it does not fit into that opening. As you can see, I did try opening it up a little bit with a grinder, my Dremel. It's not gonna be enough for the thermostat that I had purchased to use. which is a Motorrad failsafe. So it's just not going to fit. I'll show you in a second why. So I have gone ahead, I ordered a Stant premium replacement. It's 180 degree, which I checked the ProFlow instructions, and 180 is acceptable for the new EFI system. And in looking at it, it doesn't have the hump on it that's going to cause a problem fitting into the hole on this tank. I also, while I was at it and needed to, I ordered a Motorcraft RS62 cap, which seems to be the go-to cap for this tank on an FE engine application. It's a 13-pound cap, and it fits right, so that should be the one, and it'll be historically accurate. Going back to the thermostat, here's the issue. This Motorrad unit, it's raised. This portion here is raised all the way around. You can see I actually snipped the little bleeder valve that was in here, just trying to see if that was my problem at first. But yeah, that's the issue. This raised portion is not going to fit into the hole. The Stant replacement that I ordered does not have this raised portion. The one right here, it ends with the center section. So that should fit flat into the opening allowance that is on this tank, and then I should be good to go. So that being said, I am dead in the water at the moment as far as getting this installed. Parts are due in tomorrow, so that is what I'm going to be waiting for. All right, so since I'm stuck waiting for those parts, I'm back under the car. I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall the block drain plugs. This is the passenger side. It's right here in front of the engine mount is where the boss is. And then on the driver's side, you can see it up there towards the back, right there. That is the driver's side one. It's loosely in place. I'm going to get them pulled out. Well, the other one's already out. I'm going to pull that one out, clean them up, put some sealant on them, and then get them reinstalled so it'll be ready to put coolant back in the block once I have everything else in order. All right, and there you can see that's the passenger side one installed. I used ARP sealer as I've used on all the other threads. Cleaned up the two plugs using some brake cleaner, an X-Acto knife to clean the threads out, and also a wire brush. So good to go. Both are in. You can see the driver's side back there. And yeah, both are sealed. They're tightened pretty much just till they get to the point where you can't really pull them up too much more. You don't want to over tighten them because you could crack things or break things or strip things, and that will make your day very bad. So yeah, drain plugs back in the block. All right, so next thing I tried to tackle is the lower radiator hoses. And as you can see there, I have installed, this is actually a direct replacement for a Mustang lower hose. You can see the part number there, it's a Dayco part, and it comes out right here behind the oil filter. So from there to the radiator is what I'm missing. I had that large upper hose from a Ram that is recommended online that I tried to see if I can make work. This is an aftermarket radiator, and it's like a 2-inch outlet, and it's not going to get on there without some fighting. And in looking at it, I would also have to twist it and contort it, and I worry about suction on the lower side, collapsing the hose even with a spring in it, because it is going to be somewhat collapsed just from trying to twist it to make it fit. So what I did is I went on Summit's site, and they do have Continental, I think it's part number 61657, which is actually similar to what Factory 5 used to supply with these kits, which is an 83 Buick Century lower radiator hose with a 3-liter V6. It's not made by Dayco anymore, and the Napa part that the car had, or initially, it's no longer found on the Napa site. But Continental allegedly still has it. It's just not currently in stock at Summit. So I've ordered the hose. I'm going to see if it shows up or if they send me something saying it's no longer made. If it's no longer made, I'm likely going to have to use flex hose or something just to connect from there to there. So that's where I'm at on the cooling system. Parts are ordered. We will see what happens when they show up, if they show up. All right, and with that, I think I am going to call it a video. Basically waiting on parts at this point in time. Really not much more I want to progress with today. So I'm going to see what shows up here in the next few days, and then the next video will start off with getting back to work once I have the parts I need. If you're liking what you're seeing, please hit like, please hit subscribe, please hit the notification bell. Do appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. I do review them. I will respond. That being said, thank you for watching and have a great day.